Welcome. What I'd like to do in this video is to go through the process of configuring 802.1x protocol for a wireless access point in a Windows Server 2008. There's another video on how to do it in 2003, which works pretty well. 2008 is a little bit different, so I'd like to go through it. What you see right now is the process for starting this thing up, and what we have is the client is the supplicant. That's the term that we're going to use for it. So we have here the client, what we call the client, the supplicant. The authenticator here, the access point, is really the client in this process, and then the Radius server is the authentication server or the authorization server. Radius is going to talk to Active Directory or some other LDAP type database. So the process we get when we start up with this thing, it specifies the supplicant sends an EAP, Extensible Authentication Protocol, over LAN to the access point. The access point then requests the identity. The EAP, we then send the identity, and the identity goes to the authentication server. The authentication server then sends a challenge back to the supplicant. The supplicant responds to the Radius request, and then we either get an accept, a yes or a no. Hopefully that we're going to get an EAP success. The port's authorized, or we're authorized access to the wireless access point. This protocol is one that can be used on both a wired and a wireless network. With that, let's go ahead and get started, and I think that let's go ahead and do the easy thing first, which is to configure the wireless access point. Okay, I've already connected to my D-Link AirPlus G802.11G 2.4 gigahertz wireless router. A number of different wireless routers support the protocol, and that's the key. The process is going to be the same regardless, but what we have to do is to be able to support the protocol that's available in it. So I am now connected, and when I change this, I'm connected via a wired connection, or at least I hope I am. The SSID of it, we'll call it Radius when we get into to enable it. The radio is turned on, channel 9. We could do auto select. It really doesn't matter a whole lot where I am. In your environment, you need to look and see which channels are not being used and find 1, 6, or 11 that you don't have any overlap on, because those are the only 3 channels that are actually clean in the 2.4 gigahertz range. So the SSID is broadcast. That makes that so I can get to it. I want to go in here and I'm going to enable, let's try WPA2. And we have the option here, pre-shared key or EAP. If I pick EAP, then that's going to give me, here it says 802.1x, that's going to give me my WPA2 enterprise security. The Radius server here has an address, and it's wrong because I have had it on a different network. In this network, it's going to be 10.10.62.11. Port's going to be the same, and the shared secret we'll need a little bit later when we configure the Radius server. So we'll put one in, and I'll put a simple one in that I can actually remember. We've had this thing set up in mixed mode. Again, you really don't want to use mixed mode if you're really truly using a G network, because if you get a B device connected to it, you've just reverted everybody to a B network. So we'll go ahead and apply this and let it restart, and then we'll get on to configuring the next device. Okay, I have now gone to my server, and there's a couple of things that need to be done on the server. First, we need network policy server, which has been installed. You can see here I've made it a certification authority already, so we have it as a certificate authority so that we can issue certificates. The reason I need a certificate, and if you have a trusted third party simplifies things quite a bit because all you do is install the certificate. In this case, I'm going to issue a certificate to myself. It's not going to be a trusted certificate, so then I'm going to have to go back on my wireless supplicant and put in the certification authority as a trusted authority so that it will take the certificate. Remember, if you are using an untrusted certificate and you try to go to a web page, it'll pop up and say, hey, something wrong with this certificate, are you sure you want to use it? You can say yes. In this case, we are not able to say yes. But back to this thing, in order to do that, I'm going to have to issue myself a certificate, because we have to have an HTTPS connection to the certificate server, and you can see cert serve down here, in order to be able to get a certificate through a web interface. So let me stumble around here a minute. Let's see if we can do a self-generated server certificate here. I'm going to go up to WPA demo, go into server certificates, and double clicked on it. And over here we're going to let's see, we're going to just create a self-signed certificate and specify the friendly name, and let's call it RADIUS Radius Demo, so that we'll be able to find it. So we now have generated the certificate on the server itself. I should now be able to open a browser and get to the certificate server and be able to get a server identification certificate, so that the Radius server will install on the Radius server. The Radius server will then be able to send it to the supplicant, so that the supplicant will trust that machine. Okay, so we've done that. One of the other things that we will have to do is go into the certificate server area, and in the SSL settings, and I've already done this, tell it to accept the certificates. We also, on the default website, may have to go into bindings and add HTTPS. I've already done that. It's here, the binding information. It's on all the addresses, and that's what that means. So the next step is to get an identification certificate for this machine. So I will, with any luck, make this thing work. And you have to have an HTTPS. So let's go to HTTPS. If I can get my address right, 10.10.62.11, and then once you get there, /CERTSRV will get you to your certificate server. So this says we can continue this website, and I recommended yes, because remember, I did a self-signed certificate, so it's not going to be a trusted certification authority. So I'm going to go there anyway, and it says the website request identification, please choose a certificate. And we could have done that. But now what we're going to do, once we get here, we are here, and you see we do have a certificate error. It tells us what's going on. The security presented by this website was issued for a different website's address, and yes, it was. I'm using an IP address. It was actually issued for the name. I don't have DNS set up, so we'll do that. We want to request a certificate, and you can get a browser or an email certificate. I want to go into the advanced, so we can, if we have the code, you can put it in here, and you can force the thing, go into the certificate managers. You can request a certificate and get that information there. So I want to go in here, and in the name we need to put the name of the machine. So I'm going to, or the domain name, whatever we're going to address it as, .radius, R-A-D-I-U-S, demo.local. Oh, we need to put in an address And we'll do IT, and we'll be, let's be Salem, Virginia, and the US. And down here it says client authentication certificate. What we really want is a server authentication certificate so that the server can identify itself. We'll go down here to we're going to create a new key set, key size. I'm going to mark the keys as exportable. That way you can make a copy of them in case something happens to the ones that are installed. You can use those keys in the different locations. And then just take the rest of these, and for a friendly name, let's call it Radius Authentication. And we will submit the request. Okay, I'm back to the beginning. I had to turn off the pop-up blocker and put in compatibility mode, because you really do have to do that to request a certificate. Otherwise, you get what I did, which really didn't go anywhere. So let's try this again and see if it works for vdemo.radiusdemo.local. And we'll try the same email address. EC, it doesn't really matter, does it? But let's just, because that is a real company. And we still are trying to get a server authentication certificate. And I still want to make it exportable. And now this is what I should get. This website is requesting a new certificate for you. Do you really want to do that? And I'll say yes. And it says to come back in about 10 days. Well, let's shortcut the 10 days by going in here and opening, hopefully, our certificate authority. Bring it over here and get it in here. And we'll open it up because we did it. We have pending requests, and we can go into all tasks and issue the certificate. We don't have any fail requests. We have the issued certificate. We now should be able to go back to search serve and view the status and server certification authority and install our certificate. Do we want to do that? And we'll say yes, we do. Okay, it says that it has been successfully installed. Let's check that to be sure. I can go to start. Let's see, okay, I moved the focus, as you can see. Let me put this in here. Let's minimize it. We'll go to start. And with our search run, MMC, and let's bring this over here and turn off the other little window. Shrink this a little bit so we get the whole thing in here. File, add, remove, snap in, and we're going to go here and pick certificates, and we're going to add it for the computer account, because remember, that's what we wanted. And for the local computer, okay. So we can open certificates, and then the personal certificates, we have the WAP demo radius demo.local. And if we open it, you can see that we have this thing, the details, what it's for back here. Your private key. I have a private key, ensures the identity of a remote computer, all issuance policies. And we'll go to the certification path. Radius demo is where it was issued from. So it appears that we actually have the certificate on the system now. Next step on the server should be to configure the network policy server. So we opened it, we installed it through the roles obviously earlier. We can, if we want to register it, we can register the server with Active Directory. And to enable the network policy to authenticate users in Active Directory must be authorized to read the user's dial-in properties. So that's why we would register it if we were going to use it for Active Directory. We'll say okay, okay. Mine's not really going to be that way because I'm not going to do that. When we go over here to the configurations, we can configure NAP, network access, but what we want to do is go down here and configure a radius server for 802.1x wireless or wired connections. So we can use it for either one. And now we'll go to configure, and we're going to secure wireless connections, and we can leave it as secure wireless connections, or you can put your own name in for the policy. The radius clients again is going to be the wireless access point. I can add it here. I could have pre-created it, but let's just call it radius WAP, and the IP address of it is 10.10.62.10. I hope. Guess we could verify to be sure that there's something there. Resolve it, and it resolves to 10.10, and if we had a DNS name we could do that. Shared secret you can generate, and generate will do some very good shared secrets, but I already put one on the wireless access point, so I'm going to use the manual, the little simple one that I used to do that. So we say OK. We'll go next, and for our authentication, if you had smart cards or other certificates, we could use that. But in our case, we're going to use Protected Extensible Authentication Protocol, PEEP. And this is the point that we need to go down here and be sure that we have our certificate. Certificate issued WAP demo.radius.local, and that's the one we have. That's the only certificate that we really have on this thing. Enable fast reconnect, you probably want to go ahead and leave that there. So we have verified that our certificate is there. Next, and then we're going to add groups, and I created previously in Active Directory a group to do this, group policy, and I forgot what I called it. So how about RAD access, radius access is what this one is, and we have one user in there. I created a user also to allow that. So while we're waiting this thing, it says that it can't find it, but it really does. It already put the user in there. Next, we don't have a VLAN configuration. If we did, you could do that. So we can next and finish. And after we finish, we need to restart the network policy server to have these things take effect. So I can stop it and go back and start it after it stops. Now we can start the network policy server. Next step is to go to our policies, and under the network policies we have secure wireless connection, and you notice it's at the top of the list. If it wasn't at the top of the list, we need to bring it up because the other ones will or have deny access, and this one's going to be a grant access. Policies will go down the line and find one that applies, and once that policy is found and works, says I'm here, it doesn't look any further. So we need to go into the policy and look at the properties of it. And under constraints, you need to be sure that the less secure, unsecure authentication methods have been unchecked. So we would uncheck all of those. I'm just going to leave the defaults right now. And we'll go to the Settings tab. And in the Settings tab, we're going to look at encryption, what's going to be available. We would really only want the 128-bit encryption, but I'm going to go ahead and just leave the defaults here for the sake of just doing this thing. The next step is to configure the client. I'm already gone ahead and gone to the 10.10.62.11 search server. Remember earlier on said it's not a trusted authentication authority, so we're going to have to download, install the certificate authority certificate. We can try the install and see if it actually installs it correctly. So we'll say install the certificate, automatically install it, and we can finish this thing. It says the import was successful. Let's go to the MMC and see if we can actually find this thing in the servers where we really want it. So let's add, remove snap-ins, and we'll do certificates, and we can add it. Let's add it for my user, and then let's add it for the computer account. And so we should have these things. So now we can go to the, if I can find them, Trusted Root Certification Authority Certificate, and see if we can find the one for WPA demo, and I don't see it for the current user. Let's go to the Trusted Root Certificates, and says that we still don't have it. So maybe we really don't have it. So what I want to do, I think, is go back here and download the certificate. Do you want to open? I want to save it, and it's going to go into my downloads, and let's open the folder, and it's called Cert New. So let's copy it someplace where I can find it. Let's see. Okay, so we have it downloaded, and I've opened the MMC and we looked at it. So let's just right click on here, all tasks, import, and let's go and see it's in the downloads, and Cert New will import that certificate. And we'll finish it up. It says that it was successful. So we'll look down the list, and I did call that one Radius Demo. I was looking for WPA, but Radius Demo, we have here WPA Demo, WAP Demo, a Radius Demo. Says that it is here, and it says it's CA. It's a Certificate Authority Certificate. Okay, I think the next step would be to configure the profile for it. So we're going to go in here. Let's go through the whole process here. Let's go to Control Panel, Network. Where's my network? Network sharing. My machine is slowed down. Manage wireless networks, and we're going to add. We'll manually create a profile called Radius, and the security type is going to be WPA2 Enterprise Encryption AES, and we'll go ahead and let it start this connection automatically. I want to go ahead in here and go and change the security, because a couple of things we need to do here. WPA2 Enterprise AES, we got PEEP. Go into settings, validate. We don't really want to do that. Remember, we added a certificate for the server, so I'm going to go in here and pick Radius Demo, WPA Demo, and not validate it, because I'm not sure that mine actually would validate it. Configure in here, the default is to automatically use your Windows password. We really don't want to do that, because that's not who we're going to be in this thing. Enable fast reconnect of it. Configure. Let's see, we got that. So let's say OK. And then advanced settings, we really shouldn't have to do anything, so we'll leave that alone. Okay, so our last step should be to try to connect to it. So go in here, Radius, and connect, and it says we have a connection problem. Well, let's try it again. My network seems to not be doing what I really want it to do. Try connect. It says to troubleshoot the problems again. Troubleshoot. And finally, it's asking us for a username and password. So, M Turner, I think. Password 1. The password that we do this thing with. Connecting on around and around and around, connecting to the Radius server. And now we are connected. So we finally got around through the whole process. We're connected using 802.1x as the authentication protocol and AES as the encryption protocol. With that, I'm going to quit now and say I hope this has been useful, and thank you for watching.